Today, what we're going to do is we're going to talk specifically about three small early wins that you can create that can help you really develop buy-in with your community and develop huge success. Now, if you're up to stage two, then you would have already put in place or started to set up an action team or perhaps brought together a group of passionate people, and you will have really laid those foundations down for long-term success. So you may have developed a vision, you may have begun to dive deeper into the local issues and what's going on, or perhaps might have even got a snapshot of the current reality that exists beyond just what you first assumed to know. You've dived in a little bit deeper and you've really identified the strengths that are already there that you can potentially build on. And now you're feeling confident to move into this second stage. Now, this second stage of initial steps and early wins is really critical because it's where passion either turns into excitement and momentum or it just quietly fizzles out, which is what we definitely don't want to happen. Now, why early wins matter, and I want to talk about this. I regularly do this, is begin by talking about why things matter, because it's really important to not just do things for the sake of it. We need to be doing them f- because they're going to produce an important outcome. So let's start right now with why our early wins matter. So, firstly, it is very important to recognize that the journey is just as important as the destination. Now, I know that's a little overused sometimes, that word, but in this case, it's really important and particularly important for both you and the people that you bring together to create change in your community. Now, it's very likely that the people that you bring together to have discussions and make change happen are often the ones who are always putting their hands up to volunteer all the time. I know, I see you, I know you. We're often the ones who do that, and often the people you bring together are also similar. So it's really important that we make the process enjoyable and that those that are joining us to create change feel a sense of pride and achievement in what they're working to improve. Now, we also need to recognize that developing a community driven wellbeing solution, sorry, that was a bit of a tongue twister then, isn't just about ticking a box or delivering just a program. It's really about long term change. And it's about creating a cultural shift in the way that we address and approach mental health and wellbeing locally. Now, early wins also matter because they give your community a taste of what you're trying to create. They help people see that something real is happening in the local environment, and they absolutely create buy-in, which, if you've ever heard me talk at many different workshops and presentations, buy-in is so important. It makes the difference between our things that we're trying to improve being something that's just fleeting or something that really shifts things. Now, I apologize. My dogs, being country dogs, have decided to bark because something's walked past something. I apologize if you can hear them. But look, creating buy-in is really critical to long-term success, and it very much helps our bigger goals down the track. And as I said earlier, early wins are really important because they help your team feel proud of what they're becoming part of. Now, when you bring a group of people together, that might be volunteers, it might be colleagues, it might be community members, you want them to feel a sense of achievement early. You want them to be excited to be part of this movement for change, and you want them to be motivated so that they keep coming back and they want to be part of what you're doing. If the work early on feels too big, feels too heavy, or too far away from achieving success, people start to disengage. It's not because they don't care, but it's very much because they start to feel overwhelmed. Early wins help people to see we're making progress. This actually matters. This is really doable. It's achievable, and we're going to have success. And that is a big part of what creates sustainability. All right, enough about the why. Let's get into some of those early wins that you can start making happen. So, first and foremost, I really encourage people to create an event that builds belonging and connection. One of the most powerful early wins you can do is really create an event that has that focus. Now, it doesn't need to be big or complicated. It might be that you decide to target a specific group that you want to work with. It might be that you're targeting youth or men or seniors or the Indigenous population or whoever. It doesn't matter. Any target group that you feel needs support. Or it might be open to the entire community. But what's important is that the focus is simple and it's about helping people feel connected and feel that they belong because belonging and connection are foundational to our well-being as human beings. When people feel included and they feel seen, engagement follows. And as a bonus, it's actually something that's a lot easier to create in a rural community as opposed to our urban counterparts. Now, please don't panic. If you're in an urban area, you can still achieve it. It's just that it's one thing that we as rural communities can have a little bit of an advantage in. Now, these kind of events help create positive momentum early. They help people feel what it is that you're trying to build and the movement you're trying to create. They can also raise a small amount of initial funding, which can be really helpful at the beginning of the journey. And they can give you photos and stories that you can reuse for awareness and for messaging. Now, you can very much link them to activities like Mental Health Week or significant local events, but you can also keep them separate. Both of them work, it doesn't really matter. What matters is that people walk away feeling like that felt good. I want to be part of this. And that sense of belonging and connection is coming back. I remember when I first started developing a community-driven wellbeing solution in my own community, it was a big focus is that it used to feel like we had that village approach and it had kind of been lost a bit and we wanted to bring that idea back. And when you do that out in the community, it really creates buy-in and brings your community along on the journey. Now, there are heaps of ideas out there for creating activities. There's websites like Act, Belong, Commit, or you can even just use Google or ChatGPT or any AI thing to help with ideas. Once you've identified what it is you want to achieve, you can actually punch that in to ChatGPT. I'll just call it that for now, for want of explaining all of them. But you can put that into your chat GPT and you can say, I want to create an event. This is the outcome I want to achieve. This is the group I want to target. But a really important thing to include in your prompt is that you want the activity to be simple to deliver with great impact. Easy to achieve, not too complicated, but a really great early win. So that's really important. All right, our second early win that we can try to look at is starting with um, an activity or a project that focuses on communication and awareness. So this second win is really simple but very effective. So if you can really focus on getting some intentional communication and awareness, this is what it might look like. So it might be that you develop a communication campaign. So you might do a once a month messaging that you're going to push out in posters or in socials and you're going to push out some mental health messaging. Now, what's important is you don't actually have to do the the work. What you can do is go to websites such as Beyond Blue or other mental health organisations. They have fantastic resources and they have mental health campaigns already created that you can literally take A4 posters, you can take social campaigns and you can copy and paste those and use them. And you can set them up for 12 months of the year. You can also try things like posting one wellbeing message a month or a week or whatever works for you. Don't make it too complicated. Or maybe you're just going to write a short article for your local paper or your newsletter. And that might be, it's more effective if it's coming from your team because you've got to there. But, you can also be doing that yourself to get started too. Now, this strategy, this early win works because it's low cost, it's low effort, and it can meet people who might never attend an event. So it can be a really good way of just generating some awareness and building the idea behind the movement that you're trying to create. Now, you can even build this idea and the impact that you're having to greater levels by spreading the word further as you start to connect with organizations. So, as you start to connect with schools, perhaps you're going to connect with sporting groups or community groups, you can get them to spread your campaigns or your messaging in their audience, and that can be very impactful. Just remember, you're not trying to educate everyone on everything, you're just starting to shift the conversation. Consistency is really important here, and it really builds trust, and it really shows your work, your community, that this work is intentional and it's going to be sticking around, and that it's something they should start paying attention to. All right, and the third early win I'm going to tell you about is something that requires a little bit of thinking on your part. Not too much, I promise they're simple. But what you want to do is choose one action that fits your specific community. So it's very much about choosing an action that depends on your local context, and that is exactly what makes it work. So the key to choosing that activity or that event or that action is that you want to make it relevant, you want to make it easy to deliver, and you want to make it based on something that you already know about your community. Now, a great place to start is by revisiting early thinking tools that you've done in the foundational stage. So, you might have done a mentally healthy community vision, you might have done a brain dump breakthrough, or a tier 3 wellbeing snapshot. You might have done any of those things. So, if you have, you can definitely tap into those. And you may find that you've already got a lot more direction than you realize, because there's a huge amount of um, goal setting and vision and actions that you can take that come out of those few activities. Now, if you're part of my recent Community Wellbeing Launchpad workshop, you'll be familiar with many of those activities, because we literally went through them step by step, and I gave you all the templates and the PDFs to make that happen. So you'll have some really great starting points to use here. And I was actually just thinking as I was saying that, what I'll do is I'll drop a link to that in the descriptions and the comments, so that if you want that, the information in that launchpad, you can get hold of that as well. So that, because really it's basically a set of 4 videos, and there's a whole lot of templates and resourcing, so that you can really dive deep into what's going on in your community. Now, from those activities, or from any initial exploring of what's going on in your community, or developing an idea, you might choose an action such as creating a local support directory, so something that really works for the people that live in your community. You might map out what support is currently available. And this can be a really valuable activity, because you start to see some pretty obvious gaps that you might not have realized. You might consider how you could address one of those gaps, or maybe getting if the gaps are related to a specific target group or a specific group in the area, how you can bring some people in to have a conversation around that, and around what's not working and what is working, and where change could happen to make it be more effective. You might do something as simple as a shared mindfulness session, or engage with the local school and do a poster competition. It doesn't have to be groundbreaking. And in fact, don't start with the biggest problem. Start with the most doable next step. Keep it simple and make it something that's quick and achievable. That is very much how confidence builds, and how momentum is created. All right. So I want to give you one quick activity that you can do right now, that can be your own quick win, something that's in addition to those other ones that I talked about. But here's something that you can try this week. So instead of just thinking, although I definitely want you to think about that in those last few activities, but maybe I should say in addition to just thinking, I want you to think about what's one thing that could stop happening, that is currently draining energy or not creating the impact. Or maybe that one thing needs to be stopped because it's preventing this the outcome to improve. What's one thing in your community that could benefit from stopping? Or maybe it's even one thing that you as an action team could stop doing, or one thing as an individual you could stop doing that maybe is taking up time but not having the impact that's being made, or is preventing success from happening if you're thinking about what's going on in your community. Um, sometimes things can be counterproductive. And what I want you to recognize in this is that early wins can sometimes come from removing the friction as opposed to just adding a task. So if you can think of something off your head right now, I want you to drop it in the comments. What's one thing that you wish could stop happening in your community? What's one thing that you could stop, see, stop, have, I can't talk properly. One thing that you can stop from happening in your community or in your action team that could then help outcomes improve. So that was very long-winded, that picture that I explained, but you get the idea. Look, if today helped you realize that I don't need to do everything, I just need to get started, but I really want some help to figure out where I need to start. I want to go back and do that foundational stuff, or I want to figure out how to get those realities, or figure out which wins that I want to do, or how to get started. And what to do at each stage along the way, and have someone supporting you to do it, then that's exactly the work we do inside our Community Wellbeing Changemakers membership. So it's very much where I help you design early wins intentionally, build buy-in, create your foundational steps, get right down the track to action planning and momentum and getting funding, and turning small steps into sustainable funded change. If you're not already on the waitlist, then I'd love for you to join. You can just click on the link in the description to learn more, and then you can join the waitlist. We're getting really close to me opening, and I promise it. I've said it a few times, but it is coming. And I will, as I mentioned earlier, I'll drop in the link to that workshop, to that launch pad, because it's a really fantastic tool that you'll have lifetime access to. And you will get a full set of videos, you'll get full instructions, you'll get full templates, you'll get full PDF documents, everything that you could need to action that in your own community. Look, thank you as always for being here today. I just want to remind you that early wins matter, because change doesn't have to be heavy to be meaningful. We just have to start taking small steps together so that we can start creating real momentum and really creating a movement for change in our local area. Now, until then, as always, let's stop watching the mental health statistics and let's start changing them. And I'll talk to you soon.